And shout out to my whole team as well, because we've done a fucking crazy tour.
DJ, hit that switch. 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 Pump the bass up, make that move.
I've got a question for you.
Go on.
There was a bit of a shift on, well, what I can personally see on, say, social media and stuff like that. I see a lot more of James and like James's journey on there.
Yeah.
So my question is, what does James want to do when he grow up?
What does James Hype want to be when he grows up? I see. I'll always be a DJ.
Yeah.
Because I was a DJ before I was even a DJ. You know,
What do you mean by that?
I got suspended from school for playing music from like a tape recorder, and just like they told me so many times that you're not allowed to do it, and I just still brought it in. So that was when I was like 11 or 12 now, 13 years old. So I was a DJ before I was a DJ. I didn't even know what DJ was. You know what I mean? But I was already a DJ.
And what do you think music? What is it with music then? You know, why you picked up the tape recorder? Why did you bring it to school? What made you feel like that connection with music? Was that like the reaction with people, or like?
I found something cool and I wanted to share it with people. Mm-hmm. Or it was a drum and bass CD actually.
There we go.
Yeah.
Full loop, mate.
Because my dad, he got these like, so back in the day when CDs were a thing, you could only get, I think 120 minutes of music or something on a CD. But if you got a DVD, I think a DVD could hold like 6 gigabytes of data, something like that.
There's a lot more.
Yeah, way more data. So my dad had this friend at work, and he was getting like the top 100 albums on a DVD.
Nice.
My dad would bring it home. I don't know, probably bought it for like 20 quid or something. My dad bought, probably less than that actually back then. My dad brought it home, and I remember going through all these albums, and like obviously loads of them just didn't connect with me. But then I found this drum and bass one, and I was like, whoa. It's like old, probably had Pendulum on it and stuff like that. Yeah, then I take it from the DVD. I can't remember how I got it onto the tape, but I think there was like a combination thing where you play the CD and you could record it onto the tape. Yeah. So yeah, for me that was like show and tell, you know. And even like when I was a teenager, I remember I was into skating, but my favorite bit of skating was the videos. Mm-hmm. That was what I was into. I was into the videos. I bought a video camera, and I was like, oh, I want to make videos. And obviously I never really got into making videos, but it was the music. And there was one skate, I don't know if it was a VHS or a DVD, I think might have been a VHS, one skate video that had the Fugees' Ready or Not DJ Zinc remix on it, which is like classic jungle. And I was obsessed with that, and yeah, I got that off a skate video. So,
but it's funny you say that, because one thing that by working with you I've always kind of appreciated, and I think made you also really good at what you do now, is like you've always been good with cameras as well. You always knew what you kind of were talking about and like what was going on in front of your face. Or, you know, it's like having the knowledge of the cameras, or even just today you're like, you know, we got A7Ss and this and that, and it's like not everyone has that knowledge, you know. It's like, so maybe that's also
yeah. I guess there's a part of me that is, I'm a media guy, you know what I mean? Yeah, so there's a part of me, like that's a top priority for me. It's not an afterthought. You know what I mean? It's not
that's
just
what
like,
I mean.
Oh, let's hire a random guy with a camera. No, it's like, no, I know
what camera have you got? What we're filming on, you know? It's like that, the stuff, or like, you know, for the, what was it, the live stream, the fisheye and all of that stuff.
Yeah. You had like four or five cameras on a live stream from a living room.
Yeah. But that comes from a place of also knowledge, you know, and it's like, you know what looks good. And you don't get that by just well, no, you don't just know. You gotta like search for it. You know, it's like adding value to. It's not just DJing, is it? It's also like everything else that comes with it.
Yeah, it's sharing the story, sharing the journey, and I think that's something I'll always do. I don't know what that looks like when I'm like 60 years old. I really don't. I mean, I'd like to get to a point where I probably already am at that point where DJing is an option, but I'd like to get to. Can you ever retire from this shit? You can't.
No, I think you
can't.
You would adapt it probably to like what's new as well.
You know, like Carl Cox. Like he's probably really selective about what shows he does. Like if he doesn't love it, he probably doesn't say yes. Whereas I'm still at a point where it's like, oh well, we're gonna be in Spain, we may as well do this show, you know. I'm still at that point, and I guess maybe 20 years down the line, even 5 years down the line, that won't be the case so much. I don't know. I want to DJ forever because that's all I know. But it's just a case of what does that look like?
So what show do you want to do when you're 60? That the show that you're like, well, even if I'm 60 and if they call me up, I'll do that.
Oh right, it's got to be Ibiza.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird because I didn't really understand Ibiza for a long time. I mean, I've always gone to Ibiza. Like, I've always been I've actually got more experience in Ibiza on the dance floor than I have. Nah, probably not. It's probably equal, but I spent a lot of time in Ibiza just off my nut. And you were there for a lot of it as well.
Yeah. I've seen the dance floor moves, mate. You need a bit more work.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
But when I first started DJing in like 3 years ago, I started DJing in High in the club room, and I wasn't used to that kind of DJing at the time, and it was actually, I didn't understand it at all. Like it was in the middle of the summer, so through the summer, most of my gigs will be festivals, and it'll be 20,000 people going like, way, right? And then you get to Ibiza, and it's 3 a.m, and you're in the club room in High. It's dark in there. It's really dark. There's no like LED walls, no nothing like that. It's a club room just for people to go to a club. And the first thing I remember thinking, I was like, this is awful. They're not reacting. I'm like, because I'm waiting for everyone to go, hey! But they don't do that, because that's not what the club room is. The club room is the people on the dance floor in the club room. They're going to be there for 3 or 4 hours, maybe even longer, and you can take them on a journey, and you can.
They're almost up for the journey, you know.
They're
You know their mentality is like,
yeah. There's no
I'm here for the music.
There's
That's
no short attention spans
take me on
in
it,
there, yeah. Whereas, like, as I say, with the festival, everyone's going like that. But that means you have to throw them another banger every minute to keep that energy up. And you can try and do that in Ibiza, but like, you're just gonna look like an idiot. It's not what the people are there for, and you won't get the result that you're chasing by doing that. So, it taught me a new way of DJing, which I really love doing now, but I just wasn't experienced doing that. I was really experienced with the way.
It's like the long form of DJing.
Yeah,
you know,
totally,
it's like instead of being
yeah.
short form, quick
100%.
dopamine, quick next one.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
let me start slow, and then eventually we'll get to the point, and then I'll cool it down, and it's like ups and downs.
So true. I'd never thought of it like that. The long form content of DJing. Yeah, and now I've played Ibiza for 3 years every single week, so it's something that I've really like grown into, and I really enjoy it now. And as I say, that would be the gig that I would do when I'm 60. Don't get me wrong, I still love short form DJing as well, but
what's James' favorite drink? What we got there? Lemon Coke Zero, yeah? Go on then.
just caffeine, bro, any way possible.
Do you journal?
Nah. I used to use an app called Stoic.
Yeah.
Used that for years.
What's that? What does it do?
It's like a morning gratitude journal, basically. And then one day I just stopped, and then.
But
never
what,
used it since.
you have to write? Or what?
Yeah.
There's something about writing it on paper that I find quite...
Yeah.
Because also when you... Well, I found the other day some really old like notebooks. I don't know, it's just something, if you find it written in like an old notebook that you have, it's so interesting to read how you were thinking before.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, I wish I had this, I wish I did this. And then you're like, oh wow, I've done all of that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's why this thing also, the other video is like a message to my future self because of finding these journals and this stuff. So that was the last question. If you had to write a message to your future self, what would it be?
I've got loads of them.
Oh yeah?
Well, not in that form, but I write so much stuff down, man, that's just like... Here's a good one. Anything that happened in my life that appeared evil, scary, or negative at first was exposed as a positive when time passed. Have faith and trust your gut.
So looking back is almost like a positive,
Yeah.
although you've seen it as a negative.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true.
I got more.
Go on, give me a couple more. Maybe we go one for one.
Yeah.
How about that?
So this one's pretty good. It's not an answer to your question at all, but I love it. When you get up there, you'll realise there are people up there with no idea how they got there.
Yeah, because you always think they all got it figured out, isn't it?
But some people have. But there's still so many people up there that everyone looks at like, whoa, who have no idea how they got there. The people who are the goats are the people who know how they got there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But that's not everyone. It's actually the minority.
So what you're saying, that a lot of people just stumble across it, or what?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But maybe like it was intentional, but there was loads of luck involved, you know. And there's always luck involved. But I think there's a proportion of people who could write down how they did it and do it again, and then there's a lot who couldn't.
But somehow it's almost, I don't know, it's like everyone has got that different path, isn't it? It's like, for them maybe they got it super easy or whatever, but then there is that fall off they can't deal with because they haven't done the work, you know. It's like work is like the balancing factor almost.
And the thing is as well, the world we live in, everything changes all the time. There's a new Instagram algorithm every 4 weeks, whatever. If you found success and you don't understand why, then it only takes one algorithm change and you can lose it all.
Yeah. But that's why the thing of making it so personal that it doesn't matter what you do. You could be DJing, but you could be going and doing, you know, the fitness. It's so like personal that people are almost there for you, not for DJing. Obviously.
Which leads me to my next point. It's only a finite existence when you are fighting to be things that other people are. If you're if you're only being yourself, then it's infinite.
There's always more.
But if you're aiming to be, let's say me and you are both aiming to be this thing, only one of us can have it. Only one of us can be the best, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas if you're aiming to be Andrea and I'm aiming to be James, we can both be the best.
Yeah, and you can both be at the top.
Yep.
This is one. Creating for the pleasure to create. No strings, no numbers, just a vision to bring to life. Just fully detached from like, why am I creating this, like, for numbers?
Do you think it's possible?
I think you have to think so.
Yeah.
Because if not, then it kills creativity, I think. As we were saying, you have to almost adapt it. maybe, but like the initial thought should probably be, I just want to create this because I think that story needs to be heard, or this, I have an idea in my head, I want to just make it
Yeah.
and bring it to life. And then I think from there, then also like you will adapt it and like adapt it to whatever you need. But
I think you're always going to be tainted by what you think will work. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, for sure. And I think you have to be kind of aware. But it's that gut feeling that you build over time.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be like, I'm doing this because I've seen it do well.
Oh yeah, because that guy did it
Yeah.
last week. Yeah.
It should be more something that you build with time.
Yeah.
And you only build it by doing it. You know, like you DJ for 20 years, then that gut feeling gets a bit fine-tuned to like what works. That's
like,
why you make those.
Yeah. If Casey Neistat makes a video, he's not thinking, how do I make sure this gets millions of views? But he gets millions of views because of the work he put in. And now his gut feeling gets him the views without trying.
Exactly.
Yeah. When you start to panic, think bigger and think long term. I have a tendency to panic and think instant. But I can't think of anything that is instant that is the right thing to do. I don't know if I need more context to what I'm saying here.
Yeah, it's almost like don't ride your emotions.
Yes, pretty much. Yeah. But you can use the emotion. So if you start to panic and think, I can't make any good music, like you're not gonna go to the studio and in that moment make the greatest record you ever made. But if you can turn that emotion into something that's going to benefit you in the long term. Okay, let's say I wake up tomorrow, I'm like, fuck, I haven't made a good song in 4 months. This is terrible. No one listens to my music anymore. And you have that mental, the mental breakdown. There's no point going to the studio and trying to make the best song you've ever made. The best thing you can do is use that energy and put some long-term things into place. Okay, who can I arrange to go and work with in the studio? Okay, who can I arrange to have a look at that old project with from, okay, can I go and get piano lessons? Like, use the energy for the long term and the bigger picture as opposed to the instant, because the instant is not going to work in the way that you want it to right then and there.
Yeah.
And
It's almost
goes
like
with anything.
the panic is not going to help.
No.
But also from experience, you probably know already the good things or the good action that will make you get out of that situation, mental situation, you know, of like, I can't make any good music. But you know, if you maybe get into the studio with someone inspiring, or like, even if you train, or like, you know, you just get the things that make you feel better.
Yeah.
Sometimes help you like get out of that.
Yeah. This is important for me as well because I'm really impatient. So I'm just like, I need it now. I need to do this now. and I just have to remind myself it's not going to happen now.
You don't have the solution.
Yeah. All you're going to do is beat yourself up into the fucking ground. So just turn it into a plan instead of...
Yeah, it's almost like when you feel like that, you know you got to do this, this, and that.
It's time to make a plan.
Yeah, and just like trust the plan and not the emotions.
Yeah. This one's pretty good. The world isn't waiting for more of the same.
There's also elements that people like, also what they know. You know, like, I don't know, it's weird. It's like that old banger that comes on.
I get it, if you put it into musical terms, but I still stand by what I'm saying, because if you, let's say, Calvin Harris song, like We Found Love, something that everyone loves, right? So that song, for example, we wouldn't be excited if someone made something that sounded like We Found Love. We'd be excited if We Found Love came on, but we wouldn't be excited if
another one came on.
Wouldn't.
That's true.
You know, because when We Found Love came out, it was a fresh and exciting thing.
Yeah, that's true. Because it was probably so different to whatever was out there.
Yeah.
How do you find it different?
Be yourself. Like, Calvin was putting guitars on dance music and stuff. People don't, like, that's not like a normal thing that everyone does, you know? So, yeah, go deep into what makes you you. Like when I made Ferrari, I was playing around with R&B beats. That's how I came across that, because that's what I like, you know. So yeah, that's it. Just dive into you.
Again, it's that gut feeling of like,
Yeah.
I like what this sounds like.
Mhm.
I like this thing. More of that.
To make some of these records have taken not weeks, they've taken years. But
What do you think took years in terms of like you never felt it was finished or more?
I mean, one thing that I realise when I work on things over a long period of time is you have no idea how good they can be. Like the first, I mean, it's hard when you're like the artist because you love the first version, but when you actually take on board people's ideas and sort of go back and forth with my manager, A&R, other people, then you realise, oh, if we just keep making these little adjustments, we can take it from being there to being like up there, like crazy levels. And that's the point I'm at with this record. Like, it's been, I mean, it's not the longest thing that I've ever done, but I recorded it, we wrote the song, oh, where's it gone? January, February, March, April. We wrote the song in April. And then, like you can see from this folder, that's all the versions of it now, and then that's the latest version. This is for such a amazing
What was that?
track.
5 months, 4 months.
Yeah. And then I'll test it at every stage. And
what is it that you're testing? Like different sounds or different like what?
to be honest, the sounds have been there from the start with this one. It's been arrangements that I've been testing, like what comes first, what comes here, how long does this bit need to be, and things like that. And then it's just feeling how it feels when you play it in front of real people, because when you're sitting in a room, it's like you don't, it's weird, like sometimes I'll make a track and I'll think it's amazing, and then someone else will come into the studio and I'll play it and I'll cringe. And
It's,
I
I
know
know exactly what you mean.
and it's like, that makes no sense, because like it was me who thought it was sick.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just need that. It helps you see it through the other person's eyes or hear it through the other person's ears, even if that person's not even paying attention.
Yeah, because you know they're in the room. You're like, okay, they're listening to this. Is it actually good?
Yeah.
It actually, probably the first time you
Uh-huh.
think of it differently.
But the ultimate test for that is actually playing it in front of like thousands of people, because that's that, but on a huge scale.
But what is it that you like after, in terms of like the reaction? Is that the reaction of the crowd, or like what is it that you like
It's a
looking
feeling.
for?
It's a feeling for me. And there's nuance that you hear when you play on a huge system, just in terms of how the pressure and release in the record, like how it moves, if it feels like it's moving forward, or if there's bits where you're like, nah. And I kind of make these mental notes while I'm on stage giving a performance, you know what I mean? So, but it's the best process. Like, that's why I am actually really fortunate that I make my own music and I DJ, because
You can almost test it and then go back to it. And
but that's always been the way for me. Like, even when I first started making music, I was a resident DJ, so I was testing it. Like, when the doors to the club opened at 10 p.m, I was playing my stuff and it sounded awful, but like it sounds like when you hear it on a big system compared to when you hear it on your speakers at home, that's when you realize. And obviously over time you get better at knowing what's going to sound correct, because when you first start out, everything you do, you think it's amazing, and you take it to the club and it sounds so bad.
You know, when like we were touring before, it's like you always said this thing because of like maybe the UK not booking you for shows or things like that, but there's one phrase that you always said and repeatedly, and it stayed with me for like, well, since you said it, and it's like, make it so big and so good that they can't ignore it.
It's true.
But I always wonder, like, where did you get that, or like, how did you come to understand that? And also, that's easy to remember when you push in the right direction, but also how do you keep that stale mind when, you know, you feel like, fuck, nothing is working?
I think I believed that before I saw that.
What do you mean?
Well, I always remember someone had it on a t-shirt, and I was like, that's really cool. And I think I like internalized that before I really knew that it would work. And it's so true. Like all I ever did was just carried on because when you start everything, all you want is the approval of people. All you want is, oh, I've just made my first song. All I want is Tiesto to listen to it and say it's amazing. You know, all I want is a record label to think it's good. But they won't, because, well, a few reasons. One, it'll be shit. And two, there's so many people doing this stuff. Like, you've got to make some real noise before anyone's going to pay attention. But that is literally all it comes down to. If you keep making that noise and you figure out how to make that noise better, and then you can be so good that they can't ignore you.
How did you figure out your noise? You know, like, what was the thing that you're like, fuck, this is working? You know, like, I need to do more of that. What was it, like, I don't know, social media or?
Well,
like...
I first started out making remixes of like popular tunes, and that's an easy thing, an easy way to almost piggyback off the back of other things, you know, because it's like, oh, this artist made a popular tune, I'll make a remix of it, and then you sort of have you ride their wave a little bit, but you bring your own little thing to it, and hopefully people remember your name as well. So that worked for me for a long time, and that's something. I'm a DJ through and through, so making remixes is really obvious to me. That's how I taught myself to make music. So that's still something that could work for me to this day. If I was really lost, and this happens sometimes. Sometimes I'll sit in front of the computer and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just, nothing's working. I'll just find a popular song and make a remix of it.
And how did you make the switch? Because obviously, you said remixes.
Yeah.
But then how was that compared to that making your first single? You have no bass almost.
Yeah.
So it's starting from scratch.
Blank canvas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing.
Yeah. The blank canvas is always the hardest thing. It was a really tough journey to actually turn from the guy who does remixes to the guy who makes songs that everyone knows. It's not natural to me. I don't play the piano. I don't play the guitar. I'm not like a traditional musician like that. I kind of know what sounds good to an extent, but and the other thing is as well, like, making something that sounds great in a club isn't necessarily the way to make a record that people love. It's so I always have this like internal battle as well, like, where if you're trying to make music that people love, you kind of want to make music that people could listen to while they're cooking dinner, you know,
in different environments, so it's not a club almost.
Yeah. And finding that balance of, this sounds like it belongs in a club, but it would also work if I was cooking dinner. That's sort of a sweet spot. And it's this, like, I spent so many years doing writing sessions with different singers, different musicians, different producers, and made so many songs that no one's ever heard. It was almost like I spent years on my own in a bedroom teaching myself how to produce. And I thought I was pretty good. And then I came to London and started working with actual musicians and actual songwriters and stuff. And I honestly spent so many years and made absolutely nothing that anyone's ever heard because it wasn't good enough. It was like, felt like I knew what I was doing, and then went back to being the guy who had no clue what he was doing. Yeah. So to answer
how do you get through? Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, to answer your question, the transition from the remix thing to the making songs thing wasn't that easy for me, and it still isn't sometimes. Like, as I say, give me half an hour, I can churn out a remix that loads of DJs would love to play, but give me half an hour with a blank canvas, I don't know, man.
But say like in that period when you say you started working with other people and stuff,
Yeah,
because that seems like a hard period.
yeah.
So how, in that moment, like you keep believing that, you know, like that's the right path almost. I feel like as artists or people that make stuff, there's moments that where you're like either changing things or want to try and do something new. That is like, fuck, is this even the path I want to follow? You know, like the doubts. Because you're like, you have the formula that works, the remixes. But it's almost like you know that those things need to almost take a step back for you to then become a better version of yourself.
Yeah.
So it's like, but there might be like 2 years in there where you're just like learning, maybe not even putting music out. And like,
Yeah.
how do you keep almost surviving and keep doing it?
I think I was aware that there's a ceiling that you can reach by doing this one thing over and over and again. And maybe people will say you're great, but there's a ceiling that you reach with it. And I knew that I could have more of an impact on people by creating something that is more original and more unique, you know? And I guess one thing when you're making music, and when you're doing most creative things, you're not in control of when the good shit comes out. You're not at all. And I even this week I remembered this again and totally reset my belief of this. Like, I make music every day. Sometimes I'll make some like shit loop on a plane in 10 minutes. Sometimes I'll spend 12 hours in the studio, but and sometimes I'll go months and months on end and I don't make anything good at all. Like, nothing good. Like, it's just not exciting, and you just sort of get into this like rut of not making anything good. And then over the past couple of weeks I've made a couple of things and I've just been like, whoa. And then the other day I just, something clicked and another record came together and I'm like, whoa, how is this? And then I was like, how has this just come out of nowhere? And then I remembered they always fucking come out of nowhere. Like, when I made Ferrari, I wasn't sitting down to make Ferrari. I was just fucking around. And like, it came out of nowhere. But imagine you spend 30 days a year making music, and your odds of making something great are like 1 in 1,000. Then imagine you spend 365 days a year making music, and you have the same odds.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's almost like when you get, I don't know, for myself, when I get to those moments, it's like, because it doesn't feel creative, it doesn't feel good, but you know that it's like the structure you put in place of like just doing it, and it's like almost like the universe being like, how bad do you want that record, you know? It's like, you gotta keep working on it for the next 3 months, like, for me to give you
it's
something.
Like a test,
you know, it's
yeah.
like it's testing you
And
constantly.
then in
It's
month
like,
4,
and you're like, oh, there's a little something there, and it gives you a little nug there, and it's like, oh, okay, I keep pursuing that. And it's crazy, like what, and especially with like the longer projects, and like you just reevaluate what you were doing and going back and forward, and all of that time you spend on it is almost like that's the work. Like, without that, you almost can't get to like the perfect version of it, which there might not be ever a perfect version, but like, until you do the work, you'll never know.
If you imagine it like a marathon, where there's like 1,000 runners at the start, and then every mile goes past, people are dropping out, they can't make it anymore. But the ones who really want it the most, they're still running at the end. And then when the nearer you get, the more like golden things you'll find.
But what's crazy is that you don't know how long that marathon is.
It's like the meme of the guy digging for diamonds. In the tunnel.
And it's like this close and then he stops. But I guess it goes down to like, you gotta love it, because in those moments, like, it's like, well, I'm just doing it because I just enjoy also being in these moments, because I know what comes with it. And it's like, most of the time, those moments is what forms you, because when you have the song, it's like, once you have it, it's like, it's done. But all the 6 months that you spend doing it, that's what really then progresses your music, or James, or, you know, it's like,
When you have the song as well, it's like all of a sudden you're a completely different thing, because this is true for like most producers as well. Like, you sit in a room by yourself being a geek, like, it's lonely, it's fucking it's pretty dull existence for most people unless you love it. And then you create this thing that everyone thinks is incredible, and then all of a sudden you're like on display, like, come and do an interview here, come and tell us all about this, come and perform for us. So it's like you geek out for years on end, and then everyone's like, you're that guy, come and do this now, you're not a geek anymore.
Yeah.
And then you have another thing, which is the fight between wanting to go back to being the geek and
actually doing that.
and actually being the thing that's on display. It's so, yeah, that's another story.
Well, I guess it's also because you know that being the geek is like what really makes you progress in your craft. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, the display and the music, but that means maybe a year of touring constantly, which means like you have less time to then become better. Almost. You become better at different things.
Yeah.
But like what you really love at being better at, you don't get much time to do. So it's like, I guess, it's conflicting in that sense.
And like you said as well, you have to really love it to get through the dark moments. But I also think I'm addicted to the lottery of, are people going to like it or not? I realized this like a couple of weeks ago. Like, when even from the first weeks I was ever making music, I was putting it all on SoundCloud and all these different websites that whatever. But it's a lottery. Is this one going to hit? Are people going to like this? Give it my best shot, put it out. Some of them don't do well, some of them do well. Next week, another one. And I think I actually thrive on that sort of feedback loop. And even when it does badly, that I still thrive on when it does badly.
Well, that's the best, isn't it? Because then you can't lose.
Yeah.
Because if it does good, you're good. If it does bad, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to try something else. And like, you're still learning.
Honestly, if it does bad, you're probably better. I know it sounds stupid, but
yeah, no, for sure.
But if it does really well, then you can end up in this situation where you're just trying to recreate the thing that did well. Whereas if it does badly, then you just keep moving on to the next.
Or you go back to it and try and make it different or make it better or like do things differently.
If it does badly, you learn. If it does well, you don't.
Yeah.
Or you learn that you could recreate the same thing over and over again.
Well, you find a formula.
Which no creator wants to do.
Not good, yeah.
Banging. I think we got it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Sick. There's loads of stuff there.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you, bro. Sick.